feel free to add anything that you want us to talk about. But we'll start the same way we always do, which is a temperature check. And personal, working group, community, macroeconomic, whatever you feel like. I'll pass to Wonka to get us started.
Thank you, Tam. Well, I haven't had much sleep these last days. I think the market crash is stressing me a little bit. Um, on gravity side, we are advancing on Aragon, and we are also advancing on the graviton training, which we have the fourth session today. All of you are invited after this call. And yeah, in Aragon, we are getting more stronger relationships. We are advancing with our the cases we've been managing. We will also start a graviton training, especially for them. So like things are moving, but yeah, at the same time, I also wanted to come to the Ed Barcelona, but I am not gonna be able to stay. So I may have 2 tickets that, in case someone needs them, I can send them. Because yeah, I will be returning to Colombia on the 23rd of this month. And I'll pass it to Chuy.
Thank you, Juanca. Well, I have been also, I feel distracted just by like the amount of things going on. But I feel that the TEC, especially after these, after yesterday's calls and today's communication call, I feel that it's like a constant change. And I'm very thankful actually right now for being under constant evolution, and thankful for like the next stage that we're gonna be entering for the rest of the year. So yeah, hopefully this won't stop us from keeping just building and contributing to the TEC. So yeah, I would say warmish. I'll pass it to Gideon.
Thanks, Joey. Warm. Yeah, pretty warm. The Sampo proposal passed this morning, so that's really good. We can get going. I mean, we're already going, but we can start paying some folks, which will be nice. Yeah, it feels like right now it's just like a lot of stuff going on, kind of swirling around Sampo right now. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do this in a way where like we can be very permissionless in terms of like keeping the doors open for lots of people to contribute, but without creating just like utter chaos in the wake of that. So that's the thing I'm trying to figure out right now. And we've got some ideas. I think actually I'm really bullish on the new version of Clarity. I think it's going to help us to like organize ourselves with that stuff. And then last thing is, if you haven't seen the Twitter, the TC Twitter, the tweet about the Gitcoin, like the comms crew has been doing a nice job of like trying to drive traffic to our Gitcoin page. Like we haven't raised a ton. We've raised like exactly $257, but I think we just need to start exercising these muscles of like, okay, how do we organize ourselves to drive people to these campaigns over time? Because this will get more and more important for us, I think, over time. I will pass to Nate.
Thanks, Gideon. Yeah. Oh, did you say Mitch or Nate?
Nate.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. So I would say it's a crisp 67 degrees. We have a lot of really interesting things happening. I think a lot of people are coming up with some really, really cool ideas, especially around creating utility for the TEC token. People are getting kind of, finding ideas and actually going out and trying to execute on them, which is, I think, a really big improvement on like individual agency within the members of the TEC, which I really like to see. That's really awesome. Yeah, and outside of that, I just think that we had that last week or two where we kind of just were paralyzed for a second. We were just kind of thinking of like, what do we do now? And I think now we're trying to execute on that. So I think everything's good. And I'll pass it over to you, Mitch.
Yeah, I think my temperature is 0, 0 temperature Celsius, I should clarify. I'm like, proposal inverter, nothing too new, looked at some wireframes. I don't feel like there's a lot of progress made on that. The reward system is going forward, but I think there's a lot of like changes and stuff that need to happen to it, and also I'm kind of unclear of like how the installation process is moving on the common stack side, and I haven't. It seems like there's a lot of cooks in Sampo, and so I'm curious to see if they're going to actually decide on anything before it's too late. To be frank, and I'll leave it there. I'll pass it to Eduardo.
Oh, thank you for throwing that ball to me. Yeah, it has been a weekend of roller coaster of sort of emotions. I will say this in a personal note. I'm really grateful for this community. Just because of how things are treated, even if we take more time. Just to provide context, I was elected for Steward on ENS, and then suddenly the TNL mother company decided to delete the working group that I was gonna get elected to, and it was a very centralized decision, and it felt like really weird, and it felt like really unapologetic, and there was no explanation. There was just that put forward, and it made me realize that the practices that we have here and the way we do things here are not usual in the rest of the DAOs, and even for a huge space like ENS, that doesn't apply. So it feels good to be here. Then on Sunday, I had sort of a bad omen with the market stuff, and it was sort of a weird feeling. And this feeling of uncertainty, it's quite interesting. Besides that, yeah, we put up the proposal for advice process of the Cubitas working group. We will talk about that later on. And yeah, besides that, I feel it's a mix in between cold and hot, and we will see what it will turn out, if it's hot or cold. And I will pass it on to Septi.
Thanks, Edu. Yeah, I'm happy like the transparency vote passes, which means like we can monitor the salaries, which is great. I already was missing all the stewards that are leading working groups. Like I'm not doing it for like soft go rewards because they are not asking money for the common pool. Like rewards is being handled by General Magic, and so I don't even have an idea. Probably common stack. But yeah, I DM everyone. So the work started already. So, and Rex is making a master spreadsheet where actually it's going to be some talks with Sampo. Like the idea is like this master sheet helps Sampo to accomplish their objectives. And yeah, happy that things are moving on. And regarding the market, I'm actually happy. This is an opportunity. Buy cheap, everyone. Yeah, I'll pass it to you, Tam.
Okay, maybe Manu, do you want to go before? Welcome, Manu.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sam. I guess, what is this? Intentions, instructions, temperature check, that kind of thing. Yeah, I want to see what. Yeah, temperature check. Yeah, temperature is it's warm after being very, very cold. I mean, only for a week. I honestly couldn't keep myself away from. I just didn't like just not doing anything. I think there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things I have on my plate. I really enjoy working, and I miss being around all you guys. So yeah, we had a marketing sync earlier, and then a comms working group sync. During the marketing sync, we talked about the Mean TC campaign that we're working on. Also discussed the involvement of marketing or HubSpot team in the outreach that Communitas is planning and how we can help with that. We're still deciding. There's a group on it. We're still deciding if we're gonna go the mass email route or if a more personal private DM touch is required. Whatever we decide, we do have the contact list there on our HubSpot, and we could use it if we decide to. And yeah, doing some coordination around the comms working group and being a liaison between all the different teams and laying that back to Chuy. And we're also thinking about a strategic partnership with Optimism. Although Nate did bring up some interesting points regarding that, so I'll discuss with them. I'll discuss them with him later. But there's an opportunity to allow people who mint TEC to become airdrop recipients during the next Optimism airdrop round. And there's a precedent because we won the retroactive public good funding from them before. So there's that precedent between Optimism and TEC. So there's something to explore there, some business development to be done. And I volunteer to do that. So I'm excited. There's a lot of things to do. And I'm willing to help create buy pressure for the TEC token, which is something we all need. So glad to be back. And I think, am I the last one, Tam, or is someone left?
I think I'm going to be the last one.
There you go. Okay. Back to you.
And it's good to see you back. So I'd say personally for me, I think I was thinking that we would have an answer around Stewards as a working group and as a role in the TEC sooner, but I think that it's one of these things that just has to take time to develop. I don't think there's a fast answer. So now I'm thinking, okay, it's just going to take time to develop this idea and relook at not just stewardship, but how to keep the core goals of the TEC moving forward and what that structure could look like. So I think that's something that I'm thinking about a lot now. And yeah, I'd say that's keeping me pretty preoccupied. I think it's great that Livia is an off-the-grid vacation, and that I think that's really cool in the TEC. I think it's cool that Nate is more back, not fully returned yet, but like more back, and seeing more of Nate is really, I really am enjoying that. And then, the greater market conditions, like I think it affects everyone except Septimus, but I think it affects, I think it's affecting everyone because just general macro conditions are looking, outside of being a bear market, right? Recessions coming, that like it just looks like there's trouble ahead for many people, and probably there's going to be a lot of pain for a lot of people. So I think that's maybe not something I'm preoccupied with, but I'm cognizant of. So I think that's, I don't know, there's like that energy in the air that's like, okay, it's coming. What is it going to mean? What does it mean to prices? What does it mean to the housing market? What does it mean to, employment? What does it mean to just all of these things that get affected by recessions? All right. Closing the temperature check, moving on to vacation dates. So, if you haven't yet, please hop into this form and put the dates that you are off. You won't be showing up at meetings. You won't be in the TEC. It's super, super helpful. So people know when people are just, not going to be around and what to expect. There's a list for all the stewards. I guess if you are not taking any vacation, maybe it's not a bad idea to write none, just so people are sort of aware that you didn't not fill it out. You filled it out, but there's nothing there. And then, yeah, it looks like August is going to be a really, really interrupted month in terms of stewardship in the TEC. So good for us to have a big view of this. And then any votes on gardens? So Sampo has passed, which is excellent. I think the other two that are up there is the retroactive funding for ETH Denver. And that's the only one left. Okay. Okay, so maybe we'll move on to the next topic on the agenda, which is Stewards Working Group. And I'd love if there's anyone who feels strongly against this, share it here, share it with me personally, but please, please, please come reach out to me, because right now the plan is not to ask for funding for the stewards for at least June, maybe also July and August. So currently that is where I'm thinking we go directionally. So if this is a problem or a hardship for anyone, please do come speak to, I mean, we could talk right now, we can raise it here, but if you want to speak personally or privately, then please do that too.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm out of the loop of the conversation. What's causing it to take so long to redefine it?
So there's a few factors, right? It's not just about what we've been looking at is stewardship really as community stewardship. And perhaps what we've overlooked is actually commons stewardship, stewarding the commons. So at this point, it seems like 15 stewards working a little bit for some work streams. I mean, the community has voted, right? The community has signaled that that's not how they want us to allocate funding, period, right? So how else can we allocate funding, having a more focused full-time stewardship, stewarding the commons? And I don't even know if the term needs to be steward. Maybe it's something else. And perhaps having the stewards of working groups being working group leads, but really having a smaller group of focused people versus a large group of people focused on very different things is where it's leaning towards. So the time is basically like advice process, conversations, looking at other organizations that are doing it successfully. Any other thoughts, Mitch?
No. Well, I guess this will be later, but then will we be asking, like, if we decide that we fit under this new pay structure for people, will there be any retroactive stipends? Maybe we'll decide later.
It's like, considering it was the funding for the original funding didn't pass. So what we have proposed just it didn't pass. And we can try again with the same methodology and fail again, or we can try something very new. And I'm leaning towards we just have to try something new and different. And I don't know. We can decide. Maybe we want to do something like its own proposal, which is retroactive funding, not anchoring down a new proposal for funding, but like separate, so two fundings simultaneous.
Okay.
I mean, I think that all of the working groups are going to need to create very lean budgets, and the stewards working group is going the farthest to create a lean budget. And I think a lot of the funding for the efforts of stewards should start to come from the working group themselves as much as possible too.
Yeah, I agree on that assessment. For me, the only challenging part will be stewards who are cross-working group or who do labor that are more under the category of steward rather than the category of the working group. Because, I think the same way, for example, Juanca goes to the academy to explain TC in Spanish, that doesn't fall necessarily into the gravity spectrum. and so on. So yeah, that's the only challenging part. And I think that was one of the things that Stewards working on was really helpful, because it helped me to understand that, like, always thought about the Steward as the coordination layer, and having that very concept established make everyone understand that what is the scope of the work that it belonged to. So I think some people will fall into the category of the working group, and some others won't be able to fit a justification of requesting salary for the stewards, because they do more coordination than actually the working group. So, anyways.
Yeah, I also think like there's so many things going on regarding like what we are doing, because as this, this Spanish presentation, then I'm also working on the ABC advanced page at some point. Like it's a common stack thing, but then like we are making coordination, like asking salaries like split from everywhere, which adds work. I really would love like if we coordinate to make things more simple and accountable at some point. Maybe it's not possible, but I would love like we have a chat. I actually would use the booty call for that. I think that'd be great.
And just to add on to what Septi said, I feel like having this, I feel like what we could do with those stewards working groups is just to scale the coordination layer in the way that, not scale, like to get better at it, and have more accountability and more transparency. I don't think the budget didn't pass because of rejecting the steward figure. I think it was just rejecting the amount. So it was not necessarily the concept. It was more about how the concept was being pushed forward at the stage it was. So yeah, that's it.
We received some pretty direct feedback around having too many stewards, like as well. I mean, it's taking all of this different advice into account, and many different stakeholder perspectives into account. There's no one right, but it's sort of balancing many different perspectives and trying to figure out what's actually best for the TEC. Yeah, I think that this sprint, I'll write something down more formal to share for advice process from the stewards again. But I think we need I think the stewards need outside perspective earlier on in when we're making decisions. So key stakeholders involvement, like an advisory board, right? If we were an organization, we would have an advisory board, and people could advise the stewards in an earlier process than when we post to the forum, and then we get a bunch of feedback after weeks or months has gone into the process. So we're doing advice process as stewards a little bit in like a closed space. And so we're not necessarily getting key stakeholder feedback earlier enough. So I think the stewarding isn't just like the stewardship. It's like, how do stewards get supported by key stakeholders? Trent seems someone who'd be very willing to, be in an advisory board. Maybe Zarga, maybe Angela, maybe Simon de la Rouvier. Like, how do we get these people to advise the stewards early on so that the stewards are making decisions in line with the key stakeholders? And then the decisions go to community advice process already fully vetted. So it's like, I'm starting to see like, okay, there's an advisory board that supports the stewards. The stewards are really focused on commons, less on community. Communitas can be focused on community, but the stewards are focused on the commons. And then there's probably something like working group leads, which is formerly stewards. So something like that is starting to take a shape of what's starting to make the most sense in terms of like keeping the stewards budget lean and keeping the stewards really focused only on sustainability for the TEC. We have some really difficult months ahead of us, guys. Like, I think that a small group that's, full-time dedicated to the mission of the TEC is going to be more successful than a very large group of people who are half-time, quarter-time committed to the TEC. So I think we need to just change the structure that we're doing now. I think what we had was really great for our building phase. Okay, we had 10, 15 people all building the community together, but now we need to like go really narrow. And it's like a few people doing it full time. Like that's where directionally where the thinking is going right now. But it's like some people whose full-time job is just making sure the TEC is successful and has a strong advisory board to help us get there.
I agree. I think it was exactly. I think the challenge of the proposal was exactly about the numbers and how to improve, and the concept of the stewards in the TEC, and at the same time, like if I go back and I think the 15 stewards, and if we narrow it down to 5, 6, 7, any smaller amount that we put together, and every steward will just explain what they have accomplished, we will notice the pattern that most of the initiatives in the TEC are pushed forward by the stewards, and the heavy load of the work has been usually on the stewards to put up forward, and that will justify by itself the fund allocation into this smaller group of people. Sorry, Gideon, go ahead.
No, I think that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I have 2 points. One is I've been starting to have some of these conversations with the token holders, like some of the bigger token holders, and I do think that we're not hearing a lot of these views right now. I mean, aside from the Sampo that proposal where we started to get some of that feedback, this feedback is going on around us, and it's not coming into us. So it's much better to have those channels so that we can hear what people are saying, like key stakeholders are saying about us. And I think, it's like there's a lot of like, whoa, you guys are like going to run into a wall, kind of that kind of thing. And I think that's not true, but I think there's kind of a vibe about that right now. And so it will be good to be able to open ourselves to be able to hear that. And then I think the other thing is, Edu, your point about the coordination, that would be horrible if we lost that. Like in trying to tighten things up, if we lost the commons-wide collaboration. But I think that there's going to be like some working groups that are much more naturally interconnected with other ones. And so, like for example, with Sampo, like Zeptimus and I are working pretty closely. Like we're syncing up pretty frequently over the course of a week. So I think there's going to be, and actually same thing with Communitas, and Eduardo and I are like, so there's like points of contact that I think you're going to see between working groups, and figuring out some ways to, like I kind of see like Zeptimus as like an advisor to Sampo in a way, right? And he's kind of seeing Sampo as like an advisor to, I think, to what transparency is doing with some of the accounting stuff. So figuring out ways where we can maybe embed that accountability, and that kind of almost semi-governance like role into the working groups, and maybe even pay for it that way. I don't know. There might be something there.
I also want to add something on what Tam was talking about before, like having, very few people full time. I don't think that's the way. Like, I feel like the problem in the TC is like I feel not using well the budget. I don't want to go into the details, but also like what I really want to communicate is like, it doesn't matter if the job gets done by one person or by 10 person, but if the cost is like I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say, like, is like, okay, building the ABC. It doesn't matter if it's built by one dude or by 10, as long as it's correctly built and it's, it have no bugs or all those things. And what we need to do is like having an accountability and we already have with the proposals, and it's just like our bigger problem is something it's conviction voting actually. Like conviction voting makes proposals so easy to pass, which is like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then if a small group of people think this is a good thing, it's going to pass, and we can do nothing about that because this is how conviction voting works. So yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is like we should keep it DAOI and not make a centralized group of people doing a company.
I don't know that it's less centralized, like the community still feeds decisions, than just more people focused, more full time than some people. Like right now, we're really spread out on our focus. But yeah, it's a good point to note, Zeb, actually. The objective wouldn't be to make it more centralized. And then there'd be some way to mitigate
there
that.
is people who cannot put a lot of time. Like in transparency now, we have Rex who's contributing a lot, and he's super awesome. He have his job. He cannot be here the whole time because he has his job. But the time he's here, he is spending it wisely, and I think that's good. And then of course, like, he's not going to get a full salary time, but if he's spending 3 hours doing something which is valuable for 3 hours, it's good to keep him doing it because it's helping the commons. Actually, I really think that.
Yeah, that's
Zep,
something
do you
else
think?
other than stewardship, though.
But Zep, do you think that that's something that eventually the reward system could scale up to cover casual contributors?
I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. I mean, that's what I was hoping for the reward system the whole time. But for now, I feel like Rex needs to get compensated, and he should then rely on the reward, which is not working right now. Maybe in the future, but not now, for sure.
So it sounds like we're raising another point around how, is it specifically how transparency can compensate contributors now, today?
I mean, I feel like everyone is making their proposals, and everyone is Gravity is also compensating people. Comes every proposal sample now. I feel like it's important, like the stewards be lean at some point. Like I don't know, it's hard, but at the end of the day, it's like people have to make the proposals. And again, I really think like conviction voting, it's not the best tool. Even Vitalik said it like a long time ago. It's good for small communities, but then when it's scaling, it's easy to pass proposals, and that's the bigger problem. And it's hard to keep people lean, like like especially for the first proposal, I made the transparency proposal 16K, but if I would make it 24, it would pass anyway. Conviction voting, and it's not the linear one, but yeah, I probably don't. I don't know if I answered your question, but let me know.
I think there's a proposal coming to replace conviction voting. I'm assuming your proposal is to launch osmotic funding.
It's kind of the same, honestly. It's the same. I don't know what's the solution now. Okay. But I've been talking to the same lately.
Okay. Any more thoughts then about this that we want to raise now? I think it's a greatest moment.
Maybe it would be a good time to touch on on what we discussed them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like in the case of communications, I am like in a weird position for the working group, and this is mostly because after the Commons upgrade, I wanted to like give space for new contributors to work like from their own initiatives, and even if like they belong to different teams, be able to collaborate with each other. So I thought that maybe the best way to approach this was like through stewardship. However, I became like dependable on the role to the point where by the time the idea came around of like these super valid questions about should stewardship be compensated, like even like taking it to that point. And I do agree, and I feel related with these ideas. However, I'm in a tough position because I've been depending on this stewardship, and at the same time, like on the side, I've been just like exploring different also different projects, and it's just a like a tough position, because I feel that there is like some conflict of interest in just like taking any kind of posters. So I want to keep contributing to the stewards, but I don't want to put the rest of the stewards in this position where like, I mean, I feel that so far we have reached like enough quorum to decide on this. So what we came up with is that for the next 6 months, I'm going to be including compensation for this stewardship in the T Academy proposal. However, I am not intending like to just like cover all of that, you know, and like to keep doing the same thing. So I was talking to Manu about the opportunity to maybe adapt some kind of working group coordination lead specific role for comms, because I do feel that this was very important in coordination for the working group. So we want to request this budget, but at the same time, like, be flexible enough with it to explore different ways in which we can just look into stewardship, and at the same time keep keep the teams moving forward without this leadership being missing. So sorry for not opening this subject up in the last couple of calls, but I did feel like a little bit weird and not prepared enough to share it. So I wanted to bring this up and just like listen to everybody's opinions. Juanca, Nate, and Septi have already shared some of this in the communications calls, and also Manu, who I've been discussing it with, as well as Tam. But yeah, wanted to openly discuss it a little bit more in a formal manner, where I would really love to see if everybody agrees on the way we're approaching this, or maybe you have another idea.
Do you have the teams down proposal? I mean, do you have the proposal?
I'm
link to the
still
proposal?
working on it. Like, the only part that I'm missing is this thing about the stewardship. It's what I'm working on at the moment, but it should be done in a few hours. I'll post it in the stewards group before uploading it to the forum, also because Angela wanted to review it before it goes live.
Okay. Yeah, it might be worth having a look at too before it goes live too. I mean, the Communitas working group has always had a supplement for stewardship in that budget, because there is, you know, the stewards working group has always meant to be like 10-15 hours for stewarding, 10-15 hours for working group coordination lead. So if you were doing both, you know, the expectation was like 30 hours of work a week, really, you know, like basically full time. And then, so I think that, yeah, I guess the idea was always that for some stewards, especially there would be like additional compensation in each of the working groups to sort of, you know, what is it called? Like, reach the top of the needs for the steward there. I don't have any objection to it being in the teams DAO proposal. I know that some of the proposals have passed already, and that's why I think you want to put it in the one for the TEA comes. And so I just guess, what is there a specific question to ask the stewards that you want to ask?
Just generally, I'm very curious to see if anybody is like uncomfortable or against this idea. Just to get a better just like sense of taking a decision that fits everybody, and at the same time that gives the chance to be like questioned, especially under circumstances like this with like market conditions and all of this. And just answering your question, Tam, the reason why I'm including it in the T Academy is because we decided, I mean, there are still like 2 funding proposals that communications is going to be asking for. The first one is translations, but this is because it's like the solution that came after the Graviton process. So it's been taking our time, but we've been getting it back on its feet again. So it would be approximately like a 4K proposal for complementing the first round of translations. And it's just following up on the forum's softball. The other one is the T Academy. And the reason why we are requesting this from the common pool is because I think it's been like demonstrated that it's been like one of the most functional teams. So we really want to take the chance and be able to, like, since there are very like tangible results and deliveries around this team, we wanted to formalize a little bit like some of the improvements and the advances that we're going to be taking. However, after these two funding proposals, I don't think that there's going to be like another one. And I mean, I talked to Griff briefly about it like a couple of weeks ago. We are even open to the option of maybe starting like a Give It campaign. So we still have some funds for the Twitter team. We still have some funds for the marketing team. But we want to keep like a close eye to how we handle these funds and how we can take the most out of it until the circumstances change for the whole TEC community and economy. So yeah.
I have a question. Sorry if I missed if you explained this, but like, so you are placing part of the stewardship compensation into the T Academy proposal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm very confused about that. Like, I don't understand why within the T Academy proposal that has to be included.
It's because it's the only funding proposal left that we're going to be applying for, and after that we're not going to be requesting any additional funding. So since unfortunately, and I would have loved like to like foreseeing this possibility like some months ago, because I didn't want it to come to this point where I was more dependable on the stewardship role. So the thing is that right now teams still relies a lot on some kind of stewardship and coordination leadership. So we're gonna be adding this for the next few months. But I do think, and I want to like also say this openly to the rest of the stewards, this might be a one-time thing only because of the circumstances, because it doesn't really, like, I feel that makes a lot of sense. And I also feel that there are definitely going to be better ideas in the next months around this.
I want to throw in something. So just a new idea came to my mind. So I actually don't. I mean, I'd love to see the wording for how we describe it, but I think having compensation for the person who is stewarding the TEA comms isn't necessarily. I don't see any problem with that personally, but I'm not sure how it's worded. So I'd love to see that first. But I think it makes sense to fund the person who's stewarding comms, even if it ends up being, it's one of 4 or 5 proposals, but that can come into any of them, right? I know we're doing that in Communitas too. So I feel like I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing. But if it seems as if it doesn't fit there, we can also have the comms team DAO stewarding proposal. A proposal on its own just for that. If you feel like it doesn't belong in the TEA proposal, though from my perspective, I don't see why not. But
I agree with sorry, Tam, go ahead. I agree with Tam, mainly because I feel it opens a weird precedent of, like having a different proposal include something that doesn't belong necessarily to the proposal directly. I'm like, it's not because of you, it's in general sense. I feel a little bit weird about us covering the T Academy comms. I feel that's something that T Academy should cover. For some reason, it gives me some uncomfortable feeling. It's not about you stewarding. It's specifically about T Academy, because I feel like we sometimes run short on our own communications and marketing. So, like, why are we putting money and effort on another project that it's bringing? Of course, we are partners and we are sisters in this battle, but at the same time, in the times of what we are going through, I feel I feel those efforts should be focused on the TEC, and the T Academy should find their own funding for that matter. But that's just my 2 cents on that.
But the only way we're gonna make it, Eduardo, is if we work together.
Yeah, I agree on that,
Not time to build walls, man.
but like, yeah, it's, I don't know. It just brings me a weird feeling.
The bigger question is, why are they separate still? Like, everyone's been thinking that, you know?
Yeah.
This is just like moving it closer into the sphere, like our comms or your comms.
Yeah, and that's like, if we like, for me, that will be the intelligent solution will be to merge again the two initiatives, and we don't have to have this discussion. But I don't like. I'm saying this because I'm not going to Angela or to T Academy to tell them I don't have any say in how they use their funds. So why why we the other way around? It's so weird. I'm so sorry, but it just feels weird. So anyways, that's it.
The mission of the TC is advance the token engineering field, and the T Academy are creating a lot of people with the knowledge of the TE, which is, if we accomplish to get more people in the TE course, it would mean we will have more token engineers, would be good for the TC in the long run. That's why I see it too.
Yeah, but let me rephrase this for you. So how many T Academy events have you had on our Discord? So exactly, and that's the perks. Like, you are investing on accounts for something that at the moment it's only giving some level of visibility to a TEC, a presentation once a month, and that's pretty much all. And so I'm being really harsh.
I'm going to argue that we shouldn't be measuring Discord. I feel like we're measuring the wrong thing.
I'm just saying that's an example of efforts put onto a project that, yeah, sorry. I'm gonna cut it there.
I to add to Edu's idea, I do agree. Like, I feel that even if this takes us back to the first discussion around teams, it's like, why would be supporting like someone else's comms? And I do feel that back then the approach was like maybe a little bit more simplistic and like not strong enough. And it was like, oh yeah, because we want to support, like communications around token engineering projects. It's just like expected that great TE projects are not going to be focused on running a Twitter and something like this. So back then, I feel that this would have been the approach. But at the moment, in defense of this team, I do feel that the value that this has brought to both the TEA and the TEC, it is like a kind of tangible. And I do feel that, especially that it has, like, when we talk about contributors and just participants in our economy, I feel that Angela is really important in this matter. And I feel that having her like support for this for these kinds of proposals is also something very important. And I mean, just to keep it simple under the current circumstances, I feel that there is like a very like step 1, step 2, and step 3 circumstance, which is the T Academy right now is working in the T fundamentals course. They have over 1,000 applications. If we had 10% of these people engage with the TEC after the course, I feel that we are already talking about growing the community with the people that we want to grow it with. So yeah. Sorry, Tam. I see that during.
I don't even want. Okay, so those are projections, and I think they're realistic. I just want to say, because of the TE Academy, we've already realized a value to the TEC. So number one is, okay, so the intro, the joint intro to TE monthly. So that's important. Reward system research that we did together. That was all done on the TEC. And then the TE governance. I mean, we have a group now doing real token engineering on our Discord server. So I just want to advocate for the Token Engineering Academy and the Token Engineering Commons to be seen as a unified force, and it not to be them versus us, but we are one together. And I think that the intentions of the Token Engineering Academy are very clear to unite our communities and to bring token engineering to Token Engineering Commons. And I think that personally, I support almost every endeavor that brings the Token Engineering Academy and Token Engineering Commons closer together.
I also want to say that I think that comms and gravity having similar that they all are they both are very entrepreneurial projects. So I can see that providing the comm services to the TE Academy is also a way to polish our processes to be able to offer those same processes to other communities. And that's the same thing that we are doing in Aragon, that maybe the way we are charging them, it's too low for us to be sustainable. But at this point, we are testing, and we are testing our processes and our capacity to provide these services to other community in order to be able to offer it and to be sustainable by offering those services in the future to multiple other communities.
I also just want to add that I think we should separate the issue at hand from, compensating a steward that wishes to be compensated or needs to be compensated from, a proposal that maybe a steward doesn't want to vote for. Like in Edu's case, if he doesn't want to vote on the TE Academy, I don't think those two things should be lumped together. I think it would probably be a good idea, even if it's just an individual proposal just from you, Chewy, to say, hey, I would like compensation for these months, and let's just go ahead and do it that route. I think that would, and it'd be easier to pass, and I just think it would be cleaner that way. So I just think there's a lot of decisions here in this space that we've been talking about today that cover not only the Stewards working group, but organizational structure, the way we approach managing the commons in the future. And so there's a lot of things that need to be discussed and keep being iterated on. And I think that we should really take it to the forums and really get a good picture of where the pain points are and where the good ideas are at.
Any other thoughts in our last 5 minutes?
I will be jumping out because the Graviton training is starting. But I also like the idea of a separate proposal just for the stewarding cost of a working group. That's also very interesting. And great to see you guys, everyone invited to the Graviton training.
Thanks, Wanka. Bye. Okay, so some food for thought, Chewy. And then
Okay. I mean, just like to get a better idea. So far, the impression I get is that mostly everyone agrees to have a separate proposal for the stewarding expenses. Does anybody feel like a strong opinion against this, or should I take that route?
I personally feel it is completely suitable within one of the or like it would be better to be distributed across all of the funding for comms, but I see no conflict with it being in one of the funding for comms. I mean, like I can take Communitas as an example, and I think also I think Sampo now has funding for stewards in Sampo. I think that it is like we've set the precedent where working groups ask for funding in the proposal for the working group. So why change now? I'm just offering up other suggestions, but I would vote for it in the team's proposal. That's my perspective.
Seems like
I mean, I think that the difference here is that there's 5 comms proposals. Every other working group had 1. So ideally, it should have been distributed across the 5 versus just bundled into 1. I mean, I think that's the difference. But I would still support it if it was in 1. Any other thoughts? And then I guess what the other point that Eduardo makes is a very good point. People might want to fund the stewardship for the comms working group, but maybe are going to decide not to fund teams. So you may not get votes for that. But I think teams for TEA is gonna it's gonna pass. I think that's one that has will probably have a lot of support for it. I would be very surprised if that one doesn't pass, actually, because I think that there's going to be a lot of large token holder support for Token Engineering Academy. Does that help?
Yep. Thanks everyone for this.
Yeah, thanks. That was a very good conversation that went down a few different branches.
Sorry, Tam, I think Guyan was trying to add something.
Sorry, Guyan, please go.
I think you unmuted. Yeah.
Oh, it's all good. That's very minutely perceptive of you. I was just gonna say, it seems to me like I'm not sure exactly what your governance and decision-making process is, but it would just be like, does anyone have any, paramount and overriding objections? And then if to that proposal being done in that way, and then if so, that person would help to come up with an alternative. So yeah, just wanted to add that. But I'm not familiar enough with the process to know what that is.
Thanks, Guyan. I really like that suggestion, actually. And I think it's maybe not exactly what we're doing, but this is a forum for advice process for Chewy to receive some thoughts and perspective from the other stewards about this particular issue at hand.
Yeah, I got that aspect of it. I was just curious if it was like everyone had to say yes, or if anyone was absolutely saying no to that process, because I did hear some disagreement there.
At the end of the day, I think it's Chewy's choice.
Yeah, neither. Chewy would listen to the different perspectives and make his decision based on what he's heard.
Oh, cool. Okay, nice.
Yeah, and also like in a way it makes sense for me like to take a decision that most people will support because of how conviction voting works. So yeah, this is all very helpful.
Cool. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
No, thanks for bringing it up. It's always good for us to question what we're doing and why. All right, we are at the top of the hour. So we have a few more things, but we can talk about them next week. Perhaps only I would say, please go look at the token holder letter, which I believe Gideon is keen to get out soon, and the Twitter bio, if you have any, and of course the Communitas second term funding proposal, if you have any thoughts to share on those three pieces of work right now. And thanks everyone for joining today.
Thanks, Tam. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tam.
Graviton training, if you can go.
Thanks. Hey, we have that meeting after this?
Yeah, we are.
Where is it?
I mean, it can be right here.
Oh, it's just you and me.
It's just you and me.
Oh, wow. I even got an email invite and everything.
We can also hop to the Google Calendar, so we're not recorded. Hey there.
Yeah, crazy. Speaking with the fishes.
Oh, bye, Ian. Yeah.
Let's just move to the Google Meet.
Right. I'll see you there.
Okay.